Hello everybody, it's me, Trader Max, and we're back here on the Dex Atomic X, and we're learning all about the inputs now. Now, the inputs, there's not very many of them, but there are still enough in there for you to be able to utilize and work with. And so here's what we have. When we first come into the Dex Atomic, we got the 1.12, we have inputs, and then we have style. So we'll work on this here in just a minute. So the inputs is really about your process that you can set some different things going on the chart and things rules that it has to follow. Okay. The first set of rules it's going to follow is called amount of decimal places on an alert. Now in our system, an alert is when you press the alert button and you choose the Dex Atomic, you could choose the arrow down or the arrow up once per bar. And I'll show you more of all of this later on, but you'll be able to get to send you an email. Now in the email that gets sent, unfortunately, there's no clear way inside the system without a lot of extra code, and I'm very tight on room in there, to restrict how many decimal points I can use. It's a little frustrating, but until I work out another fix, this is the best way I could do it. Now, we know that on a Euro USD, the price is set to, on Nadex, or on this particular site for TradingView, is set to about 5 levels. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we know that the fourth level is actually the pip level, right? Points in percentage. So that's the level we want to give it to. So that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 from the left, from the left, right? So there's decimal point over 4 points. That's the pip. Okay. So we want to make sure that we have that information. Now, we also know that on a JPY pair, that the second decimal point from the left is the pip, right? That's the number we're really looking for. So here would be 74.46. So when we set our process when we're doing an alert, we have to make sure that our chart has been set up correctly to the right decimal point. Or if you have a 2 on a Euro USD, it'll only show the first 2 and you won't get an accurate read. Okay. Now, so make sure that you set that. This is only for alerts. It doesn't affect the actual chart itself. It only affects the alerts when we get to the alert section. So you really don't have to worry about this too much now. Now, the risk type, though, does affect the chart. And there's 2 levels of risk at this moment. The first level is high risk. The second level is low risk. And in order to give you a broader assumption of what high and low risk is, I need to kind of show you another part of the system called the hilt box. And I'll do that now. I'm also going to show you an advanced process of our learning how to use the replay function. I'm going to click on replay. I'm going to go back to 1 bar before the arrow. Just like that. You won't be able to see the arrow just yet. So I'm going to hit play. And every 2 seconds, there we go. I'm going to hit pause right now so you can kind of get a good feeling of what this process does. So the 2 different levels that we have for input are low and high risk. When the signal or the price, right before, as the price opens, if it's between this top side, okay, the top side, the high side, and the quarter mean high, the low risk would be at the 50% mark, right? This being the mean. If you had your system set to high risk, it would be 1 deviation in. So it would be the one here. So this will set it at high risk, and down here would be low risk. Now, if the particular pair was, if the price was in this area, the closest one is always considered high risk. The one out would then be considered high or low risk. So high risk is always the first level to your box, and low risk is always the second level. Okay. Now, there is an in-between that we call the medium risk, which we'll cover later on, and we'll cover this more in depth when we talk about low and high risk. Now, low and high risk indicator levels in here are set to be inside the alert as well. So when you have it at low risk, it'll actually only show you the low risk hit. Now, you have to name your alert, which we'll show you in future videos. Session times. Session times are very important. This is when the actual pairs are actually trading on Nadex. So we know that the first 5 pairs, AUD USD, Euro USD, Great Britain Pound USD, USD JPY, and the Euro JPY, all fire 23 hours a day. And they only stop at 1700 Eastern time and restart back at 1800 Eastern time. But there's not a qualifying statement on Nadex and for an expiry until 2000, which is 8 o'clock. So we have to kind of be a little bit tricky here. We're going to start all those 5 pairs, which I'll show you how to trade the times here. But I want to show you what this does. If I put 1900 in there, okay, now 1900, 7 p.m. If you don't know how to read military time, that's what this is set to, please go to Google and have a look. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. And what this is going to do, and if I scroll back, you'll see these gaps where the system doesn't trade. This is that 1 hour a day. Now, if I'm on an Audi JPY, we know that the Audi JPY, Great Britain Pound JPY, USD CAD, USD MEXI, USD CHF, and the Euro Great Britain Pound only trade from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I have to make sure that I have all of my systems set correctly. On this one, I'm going to put from 8 o'clock. And this one, we're not going to stop because the last expiry is at 1500. I'm going to take it to 1400. Just like that. And hit OK. Now you're going to see roughly where all the systems change. We don't get a lot of trades on these ones. But the ones we do get, we do pretty well. So you'll get to restrict down which ones you want to be able to utilize and at what times you want to trade them. Now, keep this in mind too, that you don't necessarily, trading in Audi USD, have to fire this off every single time. You can set an alert different from your chart. So if you change your chart, your alert will stay with the same parameters your chart had when you set the alert. We'll talk about that more in the alert section. And that's pretty cool because you can set maybe, I only want to trade the Audi USD from 8 o'clock at night to 11 o'clock at night. So that's pretty powerful. And again, we'll talk about those more in the section for alerts. Let's move on. The next is the session times and date selection. I just keep them all going. I don't even take any of them off. If I don't want to trade Mondays, I can do something to that effect, but it's really just there for aesthetic looks at the moment. It does have purpose in the system, but I just leave them all on because that way I know that it's running for what I need. Moving average. Now, you can change the moving average and mess with this number, but we suggest staying with 50 for now until you get a lot more experience in trading. Remember, you traded through the Dex Atomic series with a 50 moving average, and you got a lot of experience doing that. You should only be at this level using the Dex Atomic after you've gotten some experience using the Dex Atomic regular. Okay? Now, under the style portions, you can change the color of the moving average and do everything to fit your background. I would suggest staying away from red or any bar colors that you're using, and definitely not any foreground or background colors that you may have. I would suggest keeping the opacity full solid so you don't forget where it's at. But if it's easier in the eyes to be a little bit more opaque, then go ahead and do so. If you don't like the thickness, you can always thin it out. I like them being pretty thick because I want to see them and feel like that's the connection I have. Okay, all the other things like characters and all the other stuff in here, you can leave just well enough alone because it'll definitely help you. Now, if we go down to, if we go to here on the style, you'll see here it says precision. Just leave everything else default. But all the way down below, you'll see defaults. You can save your system here as a default and you can name it. Like if I wanted to set this as a master pair, I would do save as default. Okay, just to that process. And then I know that every time I start this up and I put the Dex Atomic on, it's going to start with these settings. Okay, I can also reset all the settings easily. Okay, well, that's all of the inputs that I have. How to use those inputs and where and when will be coming here very shortly in the next videos. I really do appreciate all your time. I'll see you next time. And as always, trade well.